Hello, guys. Good afternoon. Um, for today's lecture, we will review for the chapter 12 and 14. And we have some practice questions at the end of the lecture review. So this program is under Purdue University. So you can verify my credentials on purdue.edu/directory. You can input my name and it will show the instructor details. So we will start for assembly and packaging. Assembly and packaging, after the the decontamination process, which is manual cleaning and ultrasonic cleaning, preparation and packaging will take place. So in this area, first you need to assemble of instruments. So assemble instruments for functionality and assemble set instruments. So there are two types of assembling an instruments. So either you will assemble it for to check the functions of that instrument, or you will assemble the sets. So for example, for this one, it's for this instrument, um, you can deassemble the instrument. Okay, when you are doing the pre-cleaning, the manual brushing, and the ultrasonic cleaning, which is um, soaking this item in the ultrasonic, unless some of the parts can be soaked, but there are parts of this equipment or or this device cannot be soaked. So as per IFU, whatever parts can be soaked, you need to soak it in ultrasonic cleaner. So once you do the manual brushing and soaking in ultrasonic cleaning, then you need to deassemble. Okay, you need to disassemble the instruments. So when you place the instrument in the preparation and pack area, you need to assemble it to check the functionality. Okay, for this one, for this sample, actually, when you are checking for this functionality, it depends on the IFU actually. But for this part, when you put a device for checking um, this device, there should be water or coming out on this area. Or if you will use this stylet, if you use this stylet and you will put the stylet on this part, it should freely go at the end of the tip. So the other assembling part is assembling set instruments. So for this one, you are assembling the instrument for functionality, and for this one, you are assembling set instruments for packing or for pouching. Okay, in preparation and pack area, the inspection of instrument is a main responsibility. Whoever, if there is a segregation of work in CSSD, so whoever in the prep and pack area, he needs to check the cleanliness of the instruments because the instruments can cause infection if ever there are debris remaining, there are blood remaining, and it was been used by to the patient. So functionality, it it must be tested. For example, for Caesar, it should be tested, it should be sharp, because in the procedure area or in the surgical OR area, once they are in the OR table and they are doing the procedures, they cannot do the testing of the instruments. So there are possibility that it can delay the procedure or it can damage a tissue or organ. So once they use it and it didn't function as it goes, it can damage the tissue or the organ. Third is your packaging of instrument sets. So for packaging of instrument sets, there are different. This is your sample. So there are different types of packaging. So you need to put this chemical indicator next to the instrument. Okay. Because if you will some exam questions, it will either said top over the instrument. Over is here. When they said over, it should be here, and under it should be here. So the right word or the right statement is next to the instruments. So the chemical indicator should be next to the instrument. Vis- the user can visibly see whether it is exposed to steam sterilization. So bear in mind that it doesn't mean that the chemical indicator change colors to whatever color it requires. It doesn't mean it changed. It is said to be sterilized. No, it is only said to be exposed in steam. So other packaging of instruments is your rigid container. This is the sample. So as you can see, it should be well arranged. So not overcrowded. So preparation and pack area physical environment. CS department temperature, humidity, and air exchanges. As you can remember, it is considered as general work area. So it is 20 degrees Celsius to 22 degrees Celsius. Sometimes it goes 23 degrees Celsius. Okay, it's 20 to 22 or sometimes 20 to 23. 30% to 60% humidity level. Please bear in mind that only sterile storage has different humidity, which is will reach until 70%, and air exchanges of 4. But for prep and pack, it should be considered as general work area and CSSD. So 20 to 23 or 20 to 22, 30 to 60% humidity, and 10 air exchanges. So preparation and pack area, physical environment, it should have a positive airflow. So for positive airflow, bacteria cannot enter on that room or on that area. Okay. So for your please remember that your decontamination, your decontamination area should be negative negative airflow, okay, or negative air pressure, which means the bacteria cannot escape on the room, while the positive airflow or prep and pack in other areas of the CSSD is positive airflow, bacteria cannot enter on that room. So working area in preparation and pack area, it should be dust and lint free. So there's no dust and there's no lint or any materials that has a lint. No non-porous, easily to clean. Non-porous means there's no hollow. parts on the working surface of your preparation and pack area, because the bacteria or the dust can lodge on porous area of the surfaces. So it should be it can tolerate cleaning chemicals, or because we are daily we are doing the surface disinfection. So for this one, for air ventilation, this is a lint. So that's the reason why it should be lint free, because some of your lint will go on the ventilation area of CSSD. Another equipment needed in the prep and pack is your magnifying glass with light. So this is testing use testing use um, to check. So for you to have an aid or to facilitate your checking, so that you can easily visualize your instrument. So there are some parts, especially with in the crevices, that you cannot check, or you can check, but um, it needs a, magnifier to check the crevices if there is still remaining powder, blood, or soil. So any equipment, please be reminded that any equipment in CSSD, it should be decontaminated or disinfected daily before use. So preparation pack area protocols: no artificial nail and nail polish, long nails, all facial hair should be covered except eyebrows and eyelashes. So whatever hair or falling hair goes to the instrument, it will be considered contaminated. Artificial nail and nail polish, it can some artificial nail, well, it can peel off and it can go to the instruments. For long nails, we all knew that that long nails can lodge some soil or bacteria. So jewelry should not be worn in CSSD, as it can carry bacteria, especially if your jewelry, there are crevices on that area or porous part, then it can lodge bacteria on that um, equipment. So preparation and pack area for dress code: scrub attire, hairnet, and intended shoes. So if ever you have beard, then you need to wear beard cover. Preparation and pack area environmental protocol: no food or drink allowed. The reason why: food and beverage may attract insects and rodents, especially if um, some particles or some food parts will go on some area of the CSSD. So it can attract insects and rodents. And some residue of food might left on your hand while you are eating, and it can transfer to the instruments, or even you, um, if your hands is not decontaminated, then it it causes a potential risk on your part as CSS technician. Pack preparation fund principles. Okay, it should be function, accurate, and neat. So function: whatever the purpose of the instrument, must be checked. If it is for cutting, it should be sharp. It is for clamping, it can clamp. So as yes as the technician, you should know what is the purpose of that instruments, what are the function of that instruments. So you should know the basic use of each instruments. Okay, accurate instruments must be correct and quantities must be exact. There's a list. There's a checklist actually. Count check instrument count check or count list. So you need to know, you need to check accurately what instrument should be inside the sets. How many instruments should be inside? It should be exact. So whatever in the checklist, it should be correct. So neat pack, the content should must be organized. So you cannot just put instruments on the rigid container without arranging it. So packaging methods as per recommendation by the instrument manufacturer. So um, as per the if ever the instruments, there are some instruments that it contains or it has a specific or specific container for packaging. So you need to follow whatever the instrument manufacturer tells what to use. So if tray is needed or not, you need to check and you need to assess. So if tray is not needed, then either you can use self-sealing pouches. So what size is it? So instrument count sheets. So whatever items needed to be inside the sets. So you have a guide, which is your count sheets. Count sheets. So content are usually identified by the user. So it depends, guys, by the user if what sets they have. For example, in dental, basic instruments is your mouth mirror, um, scaler, and your tweezer. Okay, but some physician don't like to include a mouth mirror in their basic instruments. So it depends on on the user, whatever he wants or he likes to be included on her sets or instrument sets. So for surgeon OR, it depends on them whatever they want to be in on the sets. But there are some facilities
Or
that
some facilities that
they have
they
standard.
have standard.
Just a moment. So, okay, just a moment. So please be reminded that there are some facility that they have standard policy for it. For example, um, whatever content on the rigid container, it should be listed on the count sheets. Whatever additional, as per OR nurse or surgeon, it should be separated. Okay? So there are different policies, but there are some facility that they can manipulate or add on whatever contents their physician or surgeon wants. But there are some facility that, as per, they need to follow the standard count sheets or the standard content of the rigid container. But if the physician or nurse needs another instruments and they need to separate it, so it depends on facility. So packaging methods, pack content information. So it's paper-based manual system or computer-based system. So it's either the recording of information, it should be paper-based or computer-based. So this is your sample of your count sheets. So it's actually um it's not complete, but this is a sample of your count sheet. For example, your oral surgery, it says dental forceps, one set of 9 pieces. Okay, straight elevator one, bone curette it's 1 piece. So that's your guide. So whatever it should be the content, you need to write it. So basic information to the assembler, correct and complete name of the tray. You need to put the name of the tray because if in the first hand you put a different name of the tray. For example, this tray is used for appendectomy, okay? But the content is not for appendectomy, but the content is for lap, for explore lap, okay? So that instrument will be waste. Waste. It's a waste of resources already because they will not use it. They will send back to CSSD for reserialization, and you might not be prepared for that procedure. Instead, you are prepared a day before because your instrument should be prepared a day before. It's either morning or evening. As long as it is a day before, it should be sent already on the area. Okay. But if you mistakenly label the tray, then they cannot use it. Okay, data list of tray contents, including item quantities, sizes, and reference number. So there are times that you are allowed to put the the uh, count instrument count sheets inside the tray. So it depends. So you need to check also because there are times that especially if you are using steam sterilization, the ink might smudge and it will go to the instrument. Sometimes the words or um, whatever in the paper, it will stick on the instruments. So you need to check it if it is um, if it is allowed or not. Okay, sometimes they are using different ink so that it can be used on so that the count sheets can be placed inside the rigid container. So steps for preparation inspection for assembly and disassembly of devices according to manufacturer instruction of correct placement of tray, sterilization method, type of internal, external indicator. So internal indicator, it should be a chemical indicator which is class 5 or 6. External indicator, either you will use indicator tape or a class 5 or 6 chemical indicator outside the instruments or the pack. I mean, not the pack, outside the rigid container. Inside, um, next to the rigid container, which is visually can be seen by the user when they are when they are um, when they will open the package. So type of internal and external indicator, it depends if it is for surgical, if it is critical or not. So still they can use class 4. It depends on them. But the mandated or the ideal, it should be class 5 or 6. Then the storage location. So where it should go is either in the OR or it will stay in the storage room of CSSD or other departments. So protocols, all items must be completely dried prior to assembly and packaging. Before you are doing pouching, before you are placing instruments in the rigid container, then you need to follow the protocols. You need to dry the instruments prior placing them. Wet instruments are not allowed to be packed or pouch because it can generate more moist. And also, the reason why it should be completely dried because water can interfere with the sterilization cycle and it can damage the integrity of the pouch, especially if you are using paper plastic pouches. Inspection protocols, check for cracks. When you are checking the instruments, you need to check for cracks. You need to check for if there's breaks. If the vent is vent tips, if it is misaligned, you need to check for soiled or remaining debris if still check for functionality. So that's your inspection protocols before you need to close or pouch. Please be reminded with the um, processes in CSSD. So from cleaning, okay, you need to deassemble it, right? If you are doing the manual brushing, just a moment. For this part, if you are doing either manual brushing or ultrasonic cleaning, if the instruments is assembled, then you need to disassemble it when you are doing the manual brushing and mechanical cleaning. So it should be deassembled. So once you put it in the inspection area, you need to assemble it again to check for the functionality of the instruments. You need to assemble it to check for functionality. Okay? And again, the reason why it should be disassembled when you are pouching, when when you are ready to pouch it, you need to disassemble. Okay? In sterilization, it should be disassembled. So the responsibility of assembling your instrument, it's already on the hand of the user or your physician and nurses. So CSSD tags, there are different tags in CSSD. I'm not sure if it is clear. So sometimes you are not using this tag, which is clean, but it's okay. It depends on the facility. Um, so when the instruments needs to be sharpened, you need to put this label. So the instruments needs to be sharpened as it because it did not pass the quality check or quality testing, functionality testing for example, your small scissor, it should cut clean the yellow latex, and your large scissor, it can cut clean the red latex, okay, or your orange latex, which is non-latex, orange rubber, which is your non-latex. If the instruments needs to be repaired, you need to tag it and pouch and sterilize, and before you will send it to biomedical engineer. Okay? So tag, pouch, and sterilize and send it to biomedical engineer. If it needs to be discard, it should put discard. If the instrument is already broken, then you need to you need to send it to biomedical engineer. They have the final say if it should be discarded. Or if the specifically it is broken, then you need to tag broken. So it depends on your facility protocols. Whatever tags you have, you need to follow it. So this is a sample placement, how how you can tag an instrument. So sometimes it has a sticker So holding trays, this is your sample of your holding trays. Um, any instruments, it can be packed as per if it is a set, then you can use a rigid container. So this is your holding tray. So the protocols in holding tray, you should not overcrowd inside. You should properly arrange it. Don't create overweight. Each tray, guys, you need to check your IFU. So you need to check the IFU of the rigid container. So you need to check the IFU of your rigid container. If what is the total capacity or total weight it can cater. So you need to check for it. So this holding trays or rigid container, it can protect instruments from damage. Unlike pouches, your instruments are actually vulnerable in uh, damage because there's no steel or there's no any hard metals or hard item that can protect your instruments. So silicone finger mats, you need to remember if you are using a silicone finger mats in your tray, you need to place exactly. For example, this one, this is your holes. Okay, whatever the holes in your mat, it should fit. So okay, because sometimes some technician they are using the mat on the other um, container. So you will use the finger mats only if your container is um, it if it is it if it will fit to that container. Okay? For example, for this one, it has holes, right? Your mat has a holes, then the container has a holes. So the steam can enter here and it can escape. But if it will, this one will be covered, any holes will be covered, then the steam cannot enter and cannot escape. So it should fit, actually fit the silicone finger mats to the container. So there are different types of finger mats. So you need to check if your tray or rigid container is applicable. I mean tray, because for rigid container it has different. For your rigid container, it has actually for your rigid container you can use tray liner. For silicone tip protector, this is your silicone tip protector. So whatever any edges or sharp edges, you need to put a silicone tip protector. So this silicone tip protector, it can withstand to how many sterilization process, but you need to check how many times you can reuse it. Okay, and it should be disinfected daily. Actually, it should be clean because sometimes it is soiled. Sometimes the blood is here because sometimes your nurse, once they use the instrument, once they use the instrument, sometimes even it is bloody, then they will cover with silicone tip protector. Okay, so for this one, don't forget this is your label. using autoclavable tape. So it should be 1.5. For autoclavable tape, it should be 1.5. Okay, one and half. So one and half. So one and half turn for label sticker. This is autoclavable actually. Okay. And when you place this instrument in a pouch, for example, please make sure that this should be unlatched. Okay. Wicking materials. So if you are using basin or any hollow instruments that needs a wicking materials, then it's either you will use um, cloth, which is non-lint, or if ever there's a lint, you need to delint it. Okay, because there are times that the cloth in, especially the traditional cloth in CSSD, for this one, actually it can save resources. It can, because we are just reusing it. Delint. If there's a lint, you need to delint it with paper sticker roller. Okay, this is um, sample one sample of your wicking materials. It's either tray liner or this one. For tray liner, sometimes it is placed here as a wicking materials, so any liquid will be absorbed. So if ever you're using wicking materials, there are times, guys, that the wicking materials will be placed here inside. Because in hollow instruments, or if the instruments has a concave part, it will create a smudge of water here or a pooling of water here. Okay. So sometimes it will be put. Maintaining the instruments open. Okay, we have some devices. Once we put it in the rigid container or its container, depends, because there are times that the instruments has a specific container. For example, this one, this is the specific container of this item. It's okay. For this one, if you are placing this instrument on the rigid container or other containers, then it should be this one. This item will maintain the instrument open, not that wide. It's just open. For this one, it is wide. It's okay because it's the feature of this tray. Okay, but there are times, guys. For example, this one on this area on the lower part, they need to use a tray liner. Okay, you will place a tray liner here. Depends, but most of the time you need to place a tray liner. For this one, it keeps the instrument open. See? So there are some inserts, which these inserts can still maintain the instruments open. So if you are using inserts, guys, you are not allowed to fold these inserts and place it in a pouch. It should remain as it is. For example, for this one, you will place this instrument directly on a pouch which will fit these inserts. But you cannot fold. For example, you will fold here or you will fold here just to fit these inserts to a certain pouch. You are not allowed to do it. For chemical indicator, you need to check there are some class 5 and class 6 and class 4. That are the three are the commonly used chemical indicator in CSSD, but preferably it's class 5 or 6. But if the item is not critical, then they can use the class 4. If it is critical or implants or surgery, then they need to use the class 5 or 6. Okay? So class 6, guys, is actually an emulating indicator. So verification indicator siya or cycle specific or designed to react to all critical parameters in the serialization process, which is your time, temperature, heat, pressure. Okay? The same with your class 5, but your class 5 is an integrating indicator are designed to react all critical parameters. Okay, there are times that it will differ. For example, um, for your class 5, it will go at temperature of 132. Okay, it depends. You need to check. You need to check the IFE for this one. For example, this one. There are times, this is a class 5. Actually, this is a class 5. For example, for this one, it will react to 132 degrees Celsius, okay, in 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, so you need to check your sterilization cycle if it can reach 4 to 5, because there are times, right? It's 3.5 to 5 minutes. So you cannot use the class 5 if um, your machine will go on 130 commonly 3.5 degree 3.5 minutes sterilization process. Okay, please be reminded that the sterilization is 3.5 to 5 minutes. Depends on the cycle. But mostly this is 3.5 minutes um, contact time with 121 degrees to 135 degrees. For this one, it's 3.5 minutes at 134 degrees Celsius. Okay? It's higher for your class 6. So powered surgical instruments process as per manufacturer instructions. So in CSSD, we are really following whatever the manufacturer instructions in the instruments, in the chemicals, in the equipment or devices. Okay, we we are actually following them. So whatever they said, we are following. So um, whatever the DOH is telling, whatever your quality officer is telling, the right person or the right authority to be followed, especially in CSSD, in cleaning, um, main, maintaining the instruments or devices, it should be the manufacturer instruction. So in the exam, that's the first option. They are the first option to be answered. So packaging, primary packaging process, there are three primary objectives. Allow penetration of the chosen sterilant. It's either steam, it's either ETO, it's either hydrogen peroxide. Maintain sterility of the packages. Create a package that can be opened aseptically without contaminating the content. Okay? So have a sealing methods that is tamper evident, which is once you open it, the physician can easily distinguish if this is tamper or this is already open or not, because the edges or the sealing is already not non-intact. It cannot be returned to its um, original features. Or since it is a paper plastic, the paper will be tear. So that's tamper evident. Be non-linting. There's no lint. Be easy to use. Yes, most pouches and um, packaging methods are easily to be used. Be cost effective, that not that expensive. So there are reusable packaging. So duck cloth. This is sample of your duck cloth. Muslin wrap. This is your sample of your muslin wrap. Textile. So this is sample of your textiles. It's a green textile. Actually, this is used in commonly used in CSSD. For green cloth or duck cloth, this is a class 2 FDA device. Okay, it can cause a potential risk if ever for your duck cloth, guys. It can cause it can present a potential risk to the patient or the user, especially if has if the cloth has a tear. Okay, so once the cloth is tear or it is damaged, then the content is unsterile. If they cannot, if the user doesn't able to check the cloth before packaging, then the item is considered contaminated. So the purpose, if your technician or if your nurse will use this cloth, I mean when they receive the instruments with this cloth, once they remove or once they unwrap the instruments, once they unwrap the instruments, they need to check if it has a holes or no, or if it is damaged or not. Then if there is no holes, once they unwrap it, then they can proceed in placing the instruments to the OR table. Okay? But once they see that there's a holes on the packaging, then or on the cloth, then they will remove it and replace with other. For muslin wrap, usually it is a plain weave cotton or polyester fabric, so it depends. So usually it has a 140 threads per square inch. For your textile, this is a sample of your textile. It is either cotton, okay, but mostly it should be no lint. But if ever there's a lint, then you need to delint it. Delinting is actually um, it will cost more labor because it will need more technician. So reusable packaging, textile, requires more labor, laundered. Every after sterilization, it should be laundered. They need to clean it, laundry it if there is stain. if there's blood or any spots. Inspection for tears, puncture, worn spots, or stains. So you need to check for it. If ever there is a stains, then it should be sent back to the laundry. Okay, if there is holes, tears, or punctured, it should be repaired with heat-sealed patch. Heat-sealed patch is different with heat sealer with paper plastic. Okay, so if ever, guys, your reusable packaging or textile or any cloth that is has a holes or punctured, repaired, it should not be reused. If ever you will repair it, some authorized personnel, your biomedical engineer will repair the that textile with heat sealed patch, then it should be sent to the infection control committee for checking if it will be accepted or not. So it is on the hand of your infection control committee if they will accept or reject. Okay? This is sample of your rigid container. So your rigid container, guys, provide excellent barrier to microorganism because it is enclosed, it is contained. So easy to use, eliminate disposable wrappers, so it can decrease the waste in CSSD. There's a lot of waste in CSSD, especially in checking quality checking, especially your autoclave. When you check when the Bowie and Bic, there's a lot of paper on the test pack. It's a waste. Another waste is your pouches, disposable pouches. Okay, it's another waste. If you are using rigid container in different sizes, so it can eliminate disposable wrapper. So it can help instrument from damage during processing, storage, and transport. So the disadvantage is that this container should be cleaned every after use. This container should be cleaned every after use. Okay? And if you are using a small machine, sometimes it will not fit, especially in clinics, medical centers. So it's instead of they are using rigid container, then they are using pouches. But if it is a set, then it should fit. The rigid container should fit on the machine. So this is your rigid container parts, your serial access holes, your data blocks, your lead latch, your carrying handle, your bottom latch, your container identification tag, and this is also your container identification tag. There's also lock, sleeve groove. Okay, the inner part, especially in the covering, is your filter retention plate. This is your retention plate filter. There's a tray liner or a filter, optional protective plate, lead latch, and serial access holes. So steam will enter here. It will be filtered on the tray liner or filter paper. Align tabs. This should be aligned. In cam lever is your lock. For retention plate, for your retention plate, this is your retention plate. It should be intact and not bent. So it should sit flat over the filter. Okay? This is your sample locks in your rigid container. So sometimes you will put the identification of the instruments here, whatever the set is this. This is your lock. This is your lock. It should be fully locked. It should be fully inserted, not like this, okay? But it depends. It depends on the manufacturer, okay? There are different types of lock as per rigid container manufacturer. There are times that it is a square lock. It's the same. It's a plastic lock with um, barcode number, but it uh, not this one. It it depends on your manufacturer. So pill pouches, please be remember of SIP or SEPP, steam sterilization, ETO, or ethylene oxide paper plastic. So your paper plastic, your steam, and ETO should use a paper plastic pouch. For pill pouches, it is paper plastic also, but the plastic it's different with the common paper plastic pouches. Okay, this is a Tyvek pouch. So we abbreviate it with HATS, which is hydrogen ozone. So hydrogen and ozone, they need to use Tyvek and span bound. So plastic side of the visual instruments, the purpose of the plastic, even for the other um, other pouches, this this one will aid the visualization of the instruments by the user and the chemical indicator. That's why it is a plastic. So the paper side, it will enter the steam actually, and it will be removed in the paper side of the pouches. But for Tyvek span bound pouch, this plastic will melt in steam sterilization. So it should not be used. This will melt in steam sterilization. So for this one, it should not be used, okay, in steam sterilization. So envelope method, I'll show you some samples. Actually, guys, the envelope method has the same protocols and procedures when they do the packaging in instruments with envelope method. So for this video, guys, ah, I cannot put, I'll try. For that video, there is indicator tape outside. It was placed, so it should not be broken, and it should change color after sterilization. And there is a label, which is a instrument table tray. Okay, so it will identify what is the tray sets for what procedure it is. So the next is another method. I cannot move. So the next method is your parallel or simultaneous square. Okay, guys, as you can see, when they are placing instruments on the trays, it is properly arranged. The basin or the kidney basin concave face down because it can facilitate the drainage of the steam if ever. And it has an indicator tape outside, and it has a instrument label, what set label, whatever this that set intended for. So you need to place a chemical indicator inside, which is class 5 or 6, before covering it or before pouching it. So package closure, this is one sample of your package closure, especially in your rigid container. So it has depend as per manufacturer. Um, Self-sealing pouches or self-sealing adhesive. So you just remove the cover and you can stick it. So it has a self-sealing adhesive. Tape indicator, this is sample of your tape indicator. So it will change to black once it is exposed to steam. So you need to check on the, for example, because I don't have the image here. For example, you place the tape here, okay? Because it's here actually. You need to check. You need to check for this one if it is the tape indicator is not broken. So if ever the tape indicator here is not broken, then they can use it. If it is broken, then they cannot use it. So other package closure, it is your heat sealing. Heat sealing, guys, is commonly used in every CSSD. this is the number one commonly used in CSSD. Okay, the heat sealing. So for your heat sealing or even your um, self-sealing pouches, you need to be reminded once you stick it together, once you seal it, you need to check if your pouch has a air pockets. Air pockets means if it has fold because um, the bacteria can enter on that air pockets or on that space. Okay, it should be lay flat once you seal it. Once you self seal it or heat seal it, then it should lay flat. But you need to check if it has air pockets or a gap because especially in your heat sealing, there are times that there are a small gap that the part, small part which is not sealed. IUSS or immediate use of steam sterilization. Immediate use of steam sterilization are actually used in CSSD, especially in emergency cases. So you are not allowed to use an IUSS or immediate use of steam sterilization just because you don't have enough instruments. So you will just use the immediate use of steam sterilization if ever it is emergency. There's an emergency procedure, there's an emergency case, or your doctor is performing a surgery and the instruments fell down. Okay, and you don't have any instruments to use. So they can use IUSS or immediate use of steam sterilization. So cleaning, sterilization, and delivery for immediate use is one of the main protocols to be followed, which means it should be clean, it should be it should be manually brushed, mechanically brushed, and it should be dried and it's pouching. It's okay because that's the purpose of IUSS. You don't need to pouch the instruments. So delivery for immediate use. So you need to check how you can deliver it aseptically without contaminating the instruments. So selected clinical situation, no time to wrap. You don't have time to put pouches to wrap the tray, or you don't need you don't have time uh, to clean a rigid container because it's an emergency procedure, needs an instruments right away. So manufacturer IFE should be followed because there are times there are some instruments that it is not allowed to be run in IUSS. So process items are transferred to the point of use aseptically. So record keeping for tracking of IUSS, which means you need to track who is the user. I mean, who is the one processing the IUSS? What's the reason? Who is the patient? Why they use IUSS? Okay. What is the instruments? What are the instruments? So implants, unless documented in emergency situation, implants should not be performed in IUSS unless it is considered emergency situation or life and death situation of the patient. Possible CGD or Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. If it is CGD, possible for CGD, then IUSS are not allowed. It should be because in CGD, you need to either soak your instruments with hydrogen hypochlorite. Okay, you need to sterilize it as per CDC guidelines, and before you can do the routine sterilization process. So not approved by IFU to be performed in IUSS. It, as I said a while ago, you are allowed only to perform IUSS if it is written in your IFU. If it is not written in your IFU, then you are not allowed to perform IUSS. Single-use device, it should not be performed in IUSS. Okay. So IUSS record keeping, you need to check the patient identification. So who is the patient? Okay. The serial number. What is the serial number of the machine used in IUSS? The cycle number or batch number. The receipt. So the temperature should be checked. The the time exposure should be checked. So reason the IUSS cycle was done, if it is an emergency or not, you need to record it. But if it is acceptable if it is emergency. If it is not emergency, then it is not acceptable. Operator signature, you need to check for it. So for heat sensitive devices, okay, for heat sensitive devices, you need to uh, it's either high level disinfection or sterilization. So vaporized hydrogen peroxide and gas plasma. If you are using packaging, if you will package the instruments, um, or if you will pouch the instruments, it should be run in chemical. So if you will sterilize the instruments, for sterilization cycle of unwrap, it should be liquid chemicals. Okay. For package, it should be chemical cycle. For unwrap, it should be liquid chemical. So this is sample of your tabletop sterilizer commonly used in medical center and clinics. It works the same as in the hospital, this is a smaller compared to hospitals. So cart and carriage loading sterilizer, this is one of your samples. Floor loading, this is samples of your floor loading steam sterilizer. So for your steam sterilization, steam sterilizer cycles, it will start with conditioning, exposure, exhaust, and drying. For drying, actually, this is optional. There are times the machine has no drying, but the important three is the conditioning, expose, in, and exhaust. The drying, it's optional, but it is necessary. It because it can facilitate the drying of your instruments. So, okay. Some machines don't have the drying, but the conditioning, exposure, and exhaust is present. Conditioning, the machine will preheat. Okay, this is preheating. So the machine will preheat and temperature will rise as per desired temperature of the machine or the cycle. For exposure, from conditioning, once the temperature will rise, it will remain on the 121 to 135 degrees Celsius for 3.5 minutes to 5 minutes. So that's the exposure starts. So that's the sterilization starts. Exhaust, any steam enters the chamber should be removed. So the machine will remove all steam and it will be evacuated in the machine, and that's the your exhaust phase. Drying, it will dry your instruments so that it will prevent wet packs. Okay. Actually, I already discussed this in the first or second topic or introduction, I think. Um, steam, steam sterilizer cycles exposure after the desired temperature reach. That sterilizer control system begins timing the cycle exposure. Exhaust at the end of the exposure phase, the chamber drain is open and the steam is removed the discharge line. This creates a void in chamber. Filtered air is gradually reintroduced into chamber and gradually returns to room temperature. So drying begins at the conclusion of the exhaust phase. Dry times are based on the device packaging and sterilizer's IFU. So we will start with the practice exams, practice questions. So I always put this instruction so that you are aware how to answer these questions. So you need to practice yourself in answering questions. So do not choose or look for familiar words or answer. You should read each question and note important details. Read each options and rationalize one by one. Eliminate as per your rationalization and choose on at least two of your choice. In answering true or false, find the word or statement that makes it false. Do not rely on by answering false without knowing why it became false. Okay? Question number 1. Instruments to be cleaned should never be left to stand without doing which of the following? A. Being sprayed with disinfectant. B. Being covered with a moistened towel. C. Rinsing the instruments. Or D. Pre-soaking the instruments. Instruments to be clean should never be left to stand without doing which of the following? Sprayed with disinfectant, being covered with a moistened towel, rinsing the instrument, pre-soaking the instrument. What's your answer? You need to check, okay, what the question is, and you need to rationalize each option. Okay, let's start rationalization. The instruments needs to be clean, which means this is contaminated, should never left to stand, should not uh, should not left to stand without doing which of the following. So what is your point of views instruction or guidelines? It is a point of views protocols. Actually, guys, it's very difficult. Why? The answer is almost correct. So pre-soaking the instruments, this is possible. Rinsing the instrument, this is possible. Moisten, this is possible. Being sprayed with disinfectant, this is possible. Okay? Okay. Your first purpose or first guidelines needs to be followed or needs to um, needs to execute, especially if you are sending instrument to CSSD, is that number one, instrument should not be dried and should be kept moist. That's your first protocol. Okay? Your second protocol is instruments, instrument, just a moment. Instrument should not be dried and should be kept moist. That's your first protocol. Your second protocol is that so your second protocol is that um, when you are placing instruments in the transport container, it should be I mean no liquids, no liquids, especially saline, betadine. Okay, it should be removed. Okay. Third protocol. Gee. Your third protocol, guys, is that prior sending it to CSSD, it should be disinfected for safe handling. Okay. Actually, all are correct. Okay. MG. I put it back. So no. So the first protocol is that you need to keep your instrument not dried and keep it moist. Okay, that's your first protocol. Okay. Um, Soaking the instrument, actually, it's good, but pre-soaking the instrument is only done, especially if there's no CSS designation left. Okay. Rinsing the instrument, this is one of the protocol. You need to rinse it. You need to pre-clean it. But actually, guys, rinsing, especially in EPA or um, environmental protection, you cannot rinse without disinfecting first the instrument. Okay, you need to put a disinfectant first before rinsing the instrument so that once the blood will go on the um, sewage line, then it is already um, disinfected. So the first is actually this one is correct. This one is correct. This is the first option. Okay, sprayed with disinfectant. This is last because before before transporting, it should be disinfected. But your first protocol and guidelines, you need to keep your instrument moist. So yes, that's correct. You need to spray it, but not disinfectant. First, not disinfectant. What is the first option to be sprayed? It should be either enzymatic cleaner or foam. Okay, actually this is not disinfectant first because last is your disinfectant. Eh, So this is wrong. This is possible. This is possible. Sprayed, this is correct, but not disinfectant. Why? It should be sprayed with enzymatic foam cleaner to keep it moist. Okay? It's either foam or cleaner. So if ever you don't have that one, enzymatic foam cleaner, then the one of the preferred is moistened towel. Okay? This is under AMI standards. So you need to keep the instrument moist even you are working with something and your instrument is already on your um, working areas left you left your instruments before doing anything you need to keep it moist before going back to the instruments and disinfect it. Just keep it moist and before disinfecting your instrument, before rinsing your instrument, disinfecting your instrument, before rinsing your instruments. Okay? So you need to keep it moist, not to be dried. So instruments, to be clean, should never be left to stand without doing which of the following: being covered with a moistened towel. So prolonged delays in cleaning can be the detrimental effect on the instrumentation. Sets can begin to stain, pitch, rust, and become dull. Dried blood becomes more difficult to remove. Instruments to be clean should never be left to stand without being covered with a moistened towel. Some devices cannot be submerged and must be cleaned manually. Okay. Second question. In the past, instrument bats were commonly used for lubrication of instruments, but the problem with this is the instrument bats. I think it's not complete. But what is the problem of the instrument bat? Okay. A. Run an increased risk of contamination. B. Are too time consuming. C. Are too expensive to perform. D. Have simply fallen over of favor. So what's the answer? Actually, it is one of the protocol of um, CSSD actually, especially in handling instruments. So in the past, instrument bats were commonly used for lubrication of instrument. So it is been removed. So the lubrication instead is now per instrument or per area. Okay, you are lubricating instrument as where is the area needs to be lubricated. Okay, the reason why it changed from bat, which means you need to soak all your instrument, to specific lubrication on specific area. The reason why is it A, run an increased risk of contamination, are too time consuming, are too expensive to perform, have simply fallen over of favor. So what's the answer? So for lubrication of instruments, so I will start to eliminate lubrication of instruments. The reason why um, it is changed from instrument bath to lubricate instruments to a specific lubrication system that you will, because lubricating instruments, guys, especially if you are putting oil, okay, is that you are protecting the microorganism or the bacteria. So they are possibly um, they can uh, be resistant in heat if ever. So are too time consuming? Yes, that's possible. The reason why once you put the instruments in a bath, then some excess lubricants should be removed. Are too expensive? Actually, I cannot guarantee this one if it is expensive or not. So I will just put it as question mark. Have simple fallen out of favor? I cannot guarantee with this one. So it is time consuming or increased risk of contamination. So time consuming because I need to remove some excess lubricants on the instruments or run an increased risk of contamination. Okay? The possible answer is you are running increased risk of contamination. Yes, that's correct. Because you are protecting the bacteria from the excess lubricants and you cannot guarantee, guys, that for example you are checking the instruments and you are lubricating it before pouching. You cannot guarantee some of the instruments or some of the crevices has a remaining soil that will go to the instrument bath, and it can contaminate the instrument bath. Okay, instead of it is already clean, it can possibly collect all the soil and it can mix up in one bath, and then it can contaminate that instrument bath. So the answer is letter A. So it can run an increased risk of contamination. So in the past, the instrument baths were commonly used for lubrication. So run an increased risk of contamination. Increased bath runs when lubricating instruments always use a lubrication according to manufacturer recommendation to assure the proper soaking time and dilution concentration. So it depends. Okay. So not all instruments needs to be lubricated. Okay. Not all instruments needs to be lubricated as per um, the same soaking time. Okay, so it depends. So the soaking bath actually, or the lubrication bath, it will not guarantee the cleanliness of the bath, especially for excess soil of if there is remaining soil. I mean, on the instruments. So reusable brushes should have all except which of the following done to them at the end of the shape. So guys, you need to check reusable brushes should have all except. So it's either all is correct or all is wrong except. Okay, so you need to check for it. reusable brushes should have all except. So which of the following done to them at the end of the shift? So end of the shift, any reusable brushes, because in his SSD, right, we are using manual brushing, um, we are using nylon brush, we are using um, steel brush, we are using brass brush. So what is the answer? So reusable brushes should have all except. Okay. So what are the option of the reusable brushes at the end of the shift? Okay, the question here is that um, which means reusable brushes should have all, which means um, the other three, it's either to be the standard protocols at the end of the shift or not the standard protocols. So you need to check every option if it is accepted or not accepted. Then the remaining one, which is not acceptable, you need to eliminate it, and that is the answer. Okay, so I will start with all, which is the protocol of the reusable brushes at the end of the shift. So the protocol of the reusable brushes at the end of the shift is that you will disinfect it, right? Okay, but before that's the protocol, you need to disinfect it before you will start using it early in the morning and after discarding it. I mean, I after after end of the shift, you will disinfect it. Okay, before you will disinfect it, you will clean it. Okay, you will clean that. It's either rinsing or soaking it with the enzymatic cleaner, or okay, and then disinfect, or if possible, you can sterilize. If the IFU of that brush said you can sterilize, then you can sterilize it. If it is disinfected only, then you can use either high level disinfectant or soaking. Okay? But discarded, possible this is also an answer. But when you can discard reusable brushes. So the except is actually letter C, discarded. When you can discard reusable brushes. So at the end of the shift, it's either you will clean your brush, you will you will clean and disinfect and sterilize, or either you will clean and disinfect only and not sterilize, as long as at least it is disinfected. Your disinfection will be useless if you are not cleaning your brushes. Your sterilization will be useless if you are not cleaning your brushes. So clean first, either disinfect and sterilize, or clean, disinfect, and sterilize. There's no issue with that. So when you will discard reusable brushes, okay, you will you will discard reusable brushes if the brush is already worn. Okay, if the brush is already flat, okay, or flattened, okay. Um, if the brush is already worn or flattened, it cannot remove any debris when you are doing manual brushing. Okay, that's the example, because at the end of the shift, The question here doesn't said that your brush is already worn or it's already flattened. Okay, that's the reason. So at the end of the shift, you will clean, disinfect, and sterilize. Okay, but if it said your reusable brushes is already worn, so what you will do at the end of the shift, you will discard it, or you will not wait until the end of the shift. You will discard it automatically once it is worn or flattened. Okay. So reusable brushes should have all except it should be discarded. Disposable brushes that are worn should be discarded. Reusable brushes should not be discarded, but be cleaned, disinfected, or sterilized at the end of shift or when heavily soiled. Okay? But if it is worn, it should be discarded. But if you think you can still reuse it, then you can reuse it. So the ventilation system should allow for no less than how many air exchanges? Ventilation system, air exchanges. I think there's okay. That's the correct question. I thought it is a wrong question, but the ventilation system should allow for no less than how many air exchanges? Okay, guys. Actually, when I read the question, I get confused because I am not sure what area is this in CSSD. It's either in the contamination, okay, or sterile storage, okay. But I will go on. Even I will, if I will answer this one, I will have hard time to answer this. But if I will answer this one, there are only two air exchanges in CSSD, which is 4 and 10. Okay? So it's either 10 for air exchanges. So ventilation system, air exchanges. So I will start with 4 air exchanges. So no less than 4. It should be 4 exactly. And the other one is your 10 air exchanges. So I will remove the 15 and 200. So 5 and 10 will be the remaining. So I will go the air exchanges of 10. Okay? Since 4, it should be 4. Okay, task 4, it is positive air, sterile storage, for air exchanges. So positive 4 or pass 4 or positive air sterile storage, okay, that's your pass 4. So positive air sterile storage for air exchanges. So that's the abbreviation I make for pass 4 because the rest of the area is 10. Okay, the pass 4 is your sterile storage area, and the 10 air exchanges is on decontamination. What else? Um, Sterilization area and prep and pack. Okay, but your decontamination has a different air pressure, which is for your decontamination, this is negative. For your sterile storage, prep and pack, and sterilization, this is positive air pressure. So the purpose of negative, the bacteria cannot escape, cannot go out in the decontamination room to contaminate other rooms. Your prep and pack, okay, and sterilization has a positive airflow, which means the bacteria cannot enter on CSSD. Okay. The ventilation system should allow for no less than how many air exchanges? 10. The ventilation system should allow for no less than 10 air exchanges per hour, and the area should be under negative pressure from other areas within the. I think the question here is um, decontamination because the rationale is negative pressure. So I think there's a lacking word here, which is decontamination. So anyway, if there's no area stated here, but you need to focus that in CSSD there are only 4 air exchanges and 10. Okay, the past 4 is the only 4, the sterile storage, and your negative air pressure and the rest has 10 air exchanges, and the only one has a negative air pressure is your decontamination. The rest is positive air pressure. So just remember the past 4, the 4 air exchanges, the sterile storage has the only different uh, air exchanges in all areas in CSSD. The rest has 10. The contamination has 10 air exchanges. Um, your prep and pack has 10 air exchanges, and your sterilization room has 10 air exchanges. Okay? Using appropriate barriers to prevent transmission of infectious organism from contact with blood and other body fluids is known by which of the following term? Or this is actually using appropriate barrier to prevent transmission, which means you will use PPE. What is the term of that? Appropriate barrier to prevent transmission of infectious organism with blood and other body fluids is known which of the following terms? For blood and other body fluids. So contact with blood. What what standard is that, or what precaution is that? What's what standard is that? So using an appropriate barrier to prevent transmission. Okay, there's no gold standard. I haven't heard the gold standard. I hear the gold standard in um what is that? What the term is? Meningitis. In treating with meningitis, the gold standard. And um in treating with stroke patient. Okay? Voluntary standards, there's none. So it's either AMI or standard precaution. AMI is focus on what standards? The AMI. Medical instrumentation. While your standard precaution, this is your precaution or standard approach if you are dealing with blood and other body fluids. Okay? Dealing with blood and other body fluids. What are what are your three common pathogens, especially in CSSD? Three common um, pathogens in CSSD. What are the three common pathogens in CSSD? Okay, what are those? Give me the three common pathogens in CSSD. My God. Okay, guys, the three common pathogens in CSSD is that Hep B, Hep C, and your HIV. Okay, your Hep B. That's the reason why there is a standard precaution because your Hep B can still transmit the virus even if it is dried, even it is dried 7 days. If you have open wounds, it can still transmit those pathogens. If you have open wounds, even it is dried blood, from it dried, the time it dried, it can still transmit a Hep B virus until 7 days. For your Hep C, it will transmit until 21 days. For your HIV, it will transmit only in an hour because your pathogen, your HIV pathogen, cannot survive in outside environment once outside in your body. So it can stand hours only and it will die. So there are three common Hep B, Hep C, and HIV. So standard precaution is using appropriate barriers to prevent transmission of infectious organism from contact with blood and other body fluids, non-intact skin, and mucous membrane. It applied to all patients regardless of diagnosis or presumed infections. So yun. The most important aspect of manual cleaning is to physically remove deposits by use of which of the following. So if you are doing manual cleaning, which is brushing, okay, which of the following is the term used? Manual cleaning, So physically remove deposits. So it will remove the soil. Okay? So manual cleaning. Imagine the manual cleaning. Okay, if I will rationalize, I can already remove a lot. Actually, I can see already the answer. Even without knowing the answer, I know that 3 is wrong. Okay? So rationalize letter A, B, C, and D, and then tell me your rationalization. Okay, let's try. If you're using your laptop, click on the upper part of your screen, annotate, and then click the annotate and then try to rationalize it. Okay, you can write your rationalization. Okay, you can, if you are using your laptop, try to drag it up, click the annotate, and then start annotating it. Start to write or underline things. Guys who are using laptop, who are using laptop, so that we can try to annotate. You can try to annotate. Mobile, wala bang annotation sa mobile? I'll check ka. I think you can annotate in your mobile, guys. You can see a line which is um with this one on the top. Okay, I will approve with um try to annotate. You cannot annotate. I will try my mobile, okay, if I can annotate. I think it's hard to annotate, but we will try to. Okay. I think it's very hard to annotate, guys. But if you are using laptop, I think you can annotate. Um, you can start annotating, or you cannot. So I think we will continue, and then we will try to annotate on the next session, especially if we don't have any discussion anymore, and we have practice questions only. Okay. Um, for this one, the most important aspects for manual cleaning for this one, manual cleaning is to physically remove deposits. Which of the following? Um, I will remove circular motion. Why? It is not circular motion, right? What's the motion for that one? What's the motion? Yes, to and fro motion. I will remove next is scraping. Why? Do you need to scrape the instrument? It can damage the protective coating of the instruments. Next, hard force and friction. Hard force actually is question mark. The reason why it should not be hard force, okay? We need even soft brushing, even we are using not steel brush, right? Sometimes we are using nylon brush. Um, the force we need in doing the brushing is just normal brushing, not that hard, okay? Because your hard force can damage your instrument. It can leave a scratch mark. So the answer is it is used by friction. So the answer is you will use it. Okay. The most important aspect of manual cleaning is to physically remove deposits by the use of which of the following? So the answer is friction. The purpose of um, the purpose of manual cleaning is to physically remove deposits that were not removed or were only softened during the pre-soak. This is done by the use of friction. So it's either um, you are doing the pre-soak or your the point of use, they are putting some foam or enzymatic foam just to keep it moist. Okay, it doesn't mean that the soil is already been dissolved on the pre-soaking or on the spray. You will not do the manual brushing. So you will do the manual brushing, and the one of the main purpose of that is to provide a friction within instruments to the brush, okay, so that any loosened debris it can be removed. So any fine debris that cannot be removed in your ultrasonic, I mean in your manual brushing, it can be removed in your ultrasonic cleaning. So the next question is an approved absorbent materials that allows for air removal, steam penetration, and facilitates drying is which of the following? Approved absorbent materials. An approved absorbent materials that allow for air removal, steam penetration, and facilitate drying is which of the following absorbent materials? So the main purpose of that materials is to um, the purpose is to absorb those remaining water puddles of water or any water or any excess water or any excess steam. Okay. So an approved absorbent materials is, let's eliminate event related material. It's wrong. Event related is that this is for expiration. Okay. It's either time or event related. So it's wrong because it talks to absorbent materials. Wet packs, absorbent materials cannot cause wet packs. It can absorb um, wet or any puddles of water or any excess steam to the absorbent materials to prevent wet packs. Okay, pill pouches that's possible, and wicking materials. So the absorbent materials is actually the wicking materials. So your wicking materials, it's either the cloth, okay, non-lint cloth, non-lint cloth, or if there's a lint, then you need to delint it, or absorbent tray liner, man, tray liner. So an approved absorbent materials that allows for air removal, steam penetration, and facilitates drying in which of the following? Wicking materials such as surgical towel can be used to facilitate drying in basin sets. Wicking materials is absorbent and allows air removal, steam penetration, and facilitate drying. So it is not appropriate to put paper plastic pouches within wrap sets or containment devices for which of the following reason? Which means you cannot put paper plastic pouches on wrap sets or on the containment, which is your rigid container. You cannot put any pouch instruments inside. What's the reason? Why you cannot put any pouch inside the containment box, containment devices, which is your rigid container. Okay. A, they add too much weight to the package. The pouches cannot be positioned to ensure adequate air removal, steam contact, and drying. They will be difficult to open without compromising sterilization. The pouches will absorb too much of the sterilant. Okay, not appropriate to paper to put paper plastic pouches. So you cannot put paper, plastic, or any pouches on the rigid container or any tray due to the following reason. First, I will remove it add much weight. No, because you can, for example, um, you did not reach the maximum weight of the rigid contain rigid container, which is, for example, it can cater 2 kilos, and you have 15 kilos, and your pouch has only 1 kilo, so you have total of 16. So it will not add that much weight. So it can add, okay, but the weight it's not been. I mean, um, once you put paper plastic pouches with instruments on the package, it doesn't mean that it has a paper or it is an additional, then it will add much weight. You can balance it. But the main reason why is that with the following. But we need to check first the wrong answer. The pouches will absorb too much of the sterilant. Is it correct or wrong? It's wrong because the pouches actually, the paper plastic pouches can tolerate sterilant. It will not absorb sterilant. It will facilitate sterilization. So they will, letter C, they will be difficult to open without compromising sterilization. For the boxes, once there is inside paper plastic, it will not cause difficulty to open. Even the paper plastic, it will not cause difficulty to open that paper plastic. Okay? So the pouches cannot be positioned to ensure adequate air removal, steam penetration, contact, and drying. This is the main reason. Okay? There is some over, you already have too much instruments inside, and once you place uh, a specific pouch, I think you cannot fit it on the right position. Okay? And even if you will fit it with right position, it is not appropriate to put another um, a specific pouch inside, especially you already have a containment or a protective container for your instruments. So if you need a specific container, for example, for a small items, you need to put it in a perforated tray, small tray, which is intended or together with the rigid container. Okay, not the pouch. Because sometimes the water, okay, in um, the steam, when you are using rigid container and there is pouch inside, sometimes the steam or puddles of water will remain on the plastic side of the pouch. So it is not appropriate to put paper plastic pouches within wrap sets or containment device because the pouches cannot be positioned to ensure adequate air removal, steam contact, and drying. The, the practice double wrapping with dissimilar materials has not been validated as appropriate and um, effective by any wrap, containment device, or paper plastic manufacturer. So rigid container are regulated by which of the following entities? Is it A, CDC, B, Environmental Protection Agency, C, the Joint Commission, or D, FDA? Rigid container is A. So which of the following entities that regulated the rigid container? So what's the answer, guys? Okay, I will start with the Joint Commission. The Joint Commission is actually will not interfere with any container. They have a specific guidelines. So it's either they are voluntary, okay? For CDC, they are regulatory, but they are more on infection. So they are more on infection control guidelines. For EPA, okay, rigid container, actually, that's possible. Your rigid container is actually a device. So any device, guys, that will fall under uh, any device that are used, especially um, that might pose a potential risk to a patient, your rigid container can pose potential risk to a patient, especially if it is damaged. When the CSSD technician are still using it and it is damaged. So it is regulated under all devices are regulated under FDA. So this device is a class 2 FDA classification device. So rigid container are regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. Containers are required to have a 510K certification that they will perform as an effective packaging materials. So even in CSSD, especially if you are dealing with chemical indicator pouches, it is controlled under FDA. Okay, even your biological. So I think we are done for today. So please uh, finish your um, module in Purdue, and for your progress test, I will announce when you can take your progress test because we are inputting some questions. Um, it is it is a practice question so that you can be practice how to answer uh, difficult questions. So you can apply any strategy, how you can eliminate and how you can check or prioritize the root questions and answer your please go to your Steris University account. It can help a lot. There's a PowerPoint slides with different lecturer in CSSD. I think there's more than 50 lecture topic there. So it can help you prepare to be in taking your exams because most of the uh, standards written in Steris are actually under EMI and Iahcsms. Okay? Do you have any question, guys? Do you have any question? Okay, I think I need to end this lecture for today. So please don't forget to answer your Ceres account. It, you can receive a certificate after you will finish each topic or each lecture topic in Ceres University account. It will help you really with some visual images there. There are a lot of instruction guides. There's a lot of um, devices to be shown. So please make sure to finish it. And then um, I will check those accounts. Yes, your name will be mentioned on that certificate, and you can either print it automatically or you can include it in your resume. Because for us, for me, I even undergo the lecture of Steris as an educator, and it can be easily printed. So I think we are done. I will monitor your. I will monitor your. Um, I will monitor your Steris account. So I will monitor. So guys, I think I need to finish this session for today. See you next week, and I will just announce when we can have practice questions. I hope we can annotate the exam questions so that I can ask someone or any one of you to try to underline things and eliminate options, underline questions and eliminate options. So we will try to practice how to annotate and try to use laptop if ever we can so that it can be easily you can easily annotate questions. So thank you guys and see you next week.